Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't yet. Feel free to comment below. Today's topic is never settle for being any woman's second choice. This video will be somewhat of a black pill, a bit nihilistic and negative, let's say. There could be a type of vaccine present containing antibodies that might provoke a reaction, some adverse reactions, which might not be very pleasant to endure for 3 or 4 days. This could lead to a certain level of discouragement and similar feelings. Meanwhile, in others, they might already be entirely vaccinated against it and will only require a booster dose. However, after a period, whether it be 1, 2, or even 3 weeks of contemplating this topic, life tends to feel lighter. It becomes more manageable to embrace some of the points that will be discussed here. It's important to remember that these are not mere figments of my imagination or personal truths I've concocted. Rather, they are simply representations of reality, illustrated through the stimuli and rewards present in our surroundings. This is indeed the central focus of the channel. It is not a channel of personal opinion. Naturally, it is a touch of personal opinion, as you can't always be informative 100% of the time. However, it is not a channel focused on moral judgment, but rather an analysis of society. It's about the significant collapse of the 20s that's emerging from the enormous number of single women who will be over 30, specifically those women born in the 90s. Nowadays, for relationships that are about to start, or that started recently, when I say recently, it's about 3 years ago, right? I think up until 2015, 16, at the most 17 there, you still have relationships that started up until that time or before that. There's still a lot of healthy relationships in which, due to fewer opportunities, women haven't been as affected by Instagram, hypergamy, and lust. There's some toxicity from these elements even in older relationships, but it's less prevalent. These relationships, which we refer to as old relationships, have had a significant amount of time where this large Instagram bubble hasn't really interfered with the relationship, obviously. However, many other relationships have also been ruined because of it. Relationships that were once healthy have been destroyed due to this exposure to women who appear to have perfect lives on Instagram. A considerable number of men have been cast aside, and most of those women who believed they would find something better are still waiting for the so-called better man. This question of no is a consolation prize. The thing about women is this: today, in these relationships that have started recently, or women who are about to start dating if a guy accepts, because women hold the key to sex in society, men hold the key to dating and marriage. So when a woman wants to have sex, she'll have sex, but it's not when she wants to date or marry a guy that she'll accept it. I'm not talking about marrying just anyone. In Brazil, there are many low-value cattle, but if she finds a guy she can accept, she's in trouble, as she relies on luck to make the right choice. So what's the consolation prize? When a woman marries or starts a relationship today, she can assign a man one of two roles. He's either the prize or the consolation prize. The prize is the exceptional guy, the alpha, the one many desire, the one a few will win. He's the dream guy, the one all women dream of dating. He must meet all his criteria: a strong social network, being a traveler, a high income, and being desired by other women. That's their dream. I'll even quote a text at the end of the video that was an aberration I saw. On Instagram nowadays, many stranded women are liking a post that received nearly 100,000 likes. It was written by a prominent man, a man of value. These men who mislead women on Instagram aren't mere cattle, as they earn money by selling courses, coaching, relationships, and more. They skillfully exploit women's misfortune and desperation. So, you see, not many men will actually end up being the ultimate prize. In reality, most of the men who are dating nowadays are more like consolation prizes. Now, what exactly is a consolation prize? Well, it's that poor fellow who has been pursuing the woman throughout his entire life. Meanwhile, the woman has been stringing him along, giving him the runaround, and even cheating on him. She's been telling him all about the other men she's been intimate with. It's the man she's sidelined, befriended, and done everything with, yet he's still desperately yearning to be with her. And this bloke didn't wake up, resulting in him getting hooked. Eventually, the woman reached 30, 32, and came to the realization that she hadn't landed the Instagram millionaire. However, it was a needy middle-class chap, the one she's always kept waiting in the fridge for ages, who became the consolation prize. Occasionally, the chap might even be an upper middle-class fellow, a bloke slightly higher up, and he too will receive the consolation prize, because you see, when the most stunning women attempt to reach the pinnacle of the pyramid, aiming for the top 1 to 2% of men, and they don't manage to secure those spots, they'll often settle for a man from the upper middle class. This might be a man with a decent job, perhaps a respectable public role, or someone who owns a modest company with a reasonable turnover. Essentially, this man is significantly above average, yet he doesn't quite match the ultimate prize she initially desired. It's still, in a sense, a consolation prize for her. The significant issue with entering a relationship these days is it, regardless of who you are, unless you're among the super alphas listening to this, although they typically don't require much guidance. These individuals, it's not that the men lower down the hierarchy lack the knowledge to navigate the game, but rather those who weren't born into privilege. He's more prone to fall for a scam. Why? Due to sexual scarcity. The fewer women a man interacts with in his life, the more likely he is to fall for female scams, unless he starts taking red pill. In other words, the guy doesn't need to be an eater or a millionaire to learn the content here that various YouTube channels are talking about. So there are a lot of normal guys out there with a normal life who, from the moment they started listening to Don Sandro, Hakoon, and Alpha Attitude, with renown on social arts, renown from Legos Homins and various other brilliant channels out there, Alita material, watching their friends get screwed or themselves getting screwed, and learning in a manner that didn't require a theoretical background, the guys are now waking up, which is exactly what we're discussing here, that men are beginning to wake up to reality. Thus, the issue of the consolation prize is indeed a form of humiliation for men, and no man should ever accept that, Truly, no man ought to accept this situation, Why did I come to realize about being somewhat half black pill and half depressed? Because here's the thing, even when at times a guy already sees himself as somewhat red pilled, and he understands how the game operates and all that, he then remarks, Putz, I finally managed to win over this girl. Then he'll wonder, when did she stay with you? Was it in her 20s, at her peak beauty and youth? Or is it because she's still beautiful thanks to modern cosmetic procedures? Women also take care of themselves, go on diets, do gym work, and still manage to look good at 30. So what's the fun of staying with that woman you've wanted since you were 20, 18, in some cases even that girl you were in love with at school, only when she's 30, she's already seen 327 peaks throughout her life. So the man doesn't have to go through this humiliation. He doesn't have to take on this kind of woman, It's not the case that every single 30-year-old woman who is unmarried is without value. Some have simply been quite unfortunate in matters of love, experiencing an unexpected divorce. Others, regrettably, have been betrayed by their partners. Nonetheless, we understand that these situations are not the norm. We cannot treat exceptions as if they were the rule. The vast majority of women who possess a basic level of attractiveness and find themselves single at 30 have indeed rejected numerous men over the course of their lives. And it's not just about rough men, poor men, or unattractive men. There were men who matched well with her, and even some who were above her level. That's exactly what we're discussing here. A woman rated as a 6, and then a man rated as a 6, 5, or 7 approaches, and she dismisses him as if he were rated 0, because she's aiming for the man rated as a 10. So after the woman has rejected all these men and hasn't succeeded in securing him, she settles for the consolation prizes. I have several friends who unfortunately find themselves as the consolation prizes for women. This term, consolation prize, was actually coined by a close friend of mine who is a brilliant scholar of the female psyche. I'm adopting this term from a conversation I had with him. He was quite candid, stating that you are either the main prize or merely the consolation prize. So the prize is usually the woman who marries early, at the age of 24, 25. That's what she realized. There are some women who are clever. It can be an example. It's not just because the woman married young and all that, she means that she's a good person, but they are at least clever. They realized the environment is rotten. The first chance they got to be with the guy in the spotlight, they didn't let go. They didn't get caught up in wanting the best to always come along. But they're a tiny minority, as few guys like that exist in Brazil. Most wait endlessly for their dream prize. If it doesn't come, they settle for a consolation prize. It's sad to realize that the girl you always dreamed of, no matter how much you've taken the red pill and moved on, still comes after you. Because even though you might already feel detached and even find humor in her being stranded, you're still staying with her. Many men manage to evolve themselves, perhaps by sculpting a nice body, consuming a vast number of books, or earning a substantial amount of money, and then they choose to stay with the younger women, right? Because the women were, in a sense, buying themselves off, correct? Due to Leonardo's capitalization of society. The men who do evolve tend to stay with the younger women. This is precisely what Leonardo DiCaprio has always done and will continue to do throughout time. Because it's funny that it's as if when they were 21, 22 years old, they had an interest in these guys. Then they leave the guys in the friend zone, suffering and all that. The guys learn from the blow, from the slap in the face that life has given them. And then it's obvious that this guy, if he gets to a higher level in society, will stay with the young girls. So the message should reach as many men as possible so they realize even if they're going to marry or date, this channel isn't saying guys should never marry. Do you want to be an exception? Believe in exceptions. Okay, I think there's an exception too. But think carefully before entering a parachute that has a 95, 97% chance of not working. Even if you don't get divorced, don't have children to pay for, sometimes you can have a terrible marriage. But anyway, there are happy marriages, there are beauties. If the guy wants to get into it and say that one day he's going to find someone I don't know what, let him be fully aware of the difference between the prize and the consolation prize. Since the prize is the gold medal, the consolation prize is what those teachers, educators, counselors, and pedagogues taught you. When you lose a school competition, they give you a participation medal saying participation is what matters. Even a 7-year-old dislikes that consolation prize. Imagine an adult man. Thus, a man shouldn't face the humiliation of being with a round woman when she's 30, because that's absolutely ridiculous. It's simply not fair on the man who ran the track. This man, when they were quite young, just 23 or 22 years old, had a desire to build a life together with this girl. However, she wasn't interested in that because she was more focused on enjoying herself, attending parties, riding on speedboats, going to luxurious condos, and dining at expensive restaurants, traveling, and so on. She didn't care about him. Why should this man have to deal with this burden after enduring numerous emotional problems and baggage caused by other men? So don't accept being the consolation prize. The consolation prize is complete humiliation for the man. It's one thing if you stay with these girls for casual sex, going to her flat, going out for a bite to eat, and nothing coming of it. That's fine. A man's libido is very difficult to control. And sometimes if I have to stay with these older BMWs, right? We say the BMW came from that woman who was a butt in her youth, and she continues to have some remnants of that due to the cosmetic procedures and how she maintains her body. She eventually turns into an old BMW. It's aged, yet it's still a BMW. However, avoid taking on these old BMWs. Don't become the consolation prize for these women, as that will ultimately ruin you over time. I'm not claiming that if you marry a young, green 22-year-old woman, you'll have a 100% guarantee of happiness. What I'm trying to convey is this: do not be the shoulder she cries on. Do not be the step she uses. Do not be the person she relies on after she spent a long time feeling sad, searching for the perfect man who never appeared. There are many women who act like vampires in this way. A significant number of women today are entering this stage, those who are aged between 25 and 32, waiting for that ideal guy. Women who have already reached 32 or even 53 are often seeking consolation prizes. That woman who has come to the realization that she's not going to secure the super heir, she's now settling for the small businessman, the prosecutor, the judge, or the guys earning 20, 30,000, who are also quite challenging, and then they continue to lower the bar. I don't believe we will truly see the realization until we are 90 years old, because the depth of emotion these women have gone through, 30 years alone just aren't sufficient. Therefore, do not attempt to save these women. Allow them to be by themselves, as this is what they have chosen. This is not an apology for loneliness, depression, or any such feelings, because those must be the outcomes of their own decisions. It is not because these men, different men, desired something, these women, when they were younger and were turned down. Hence, do not become a consolation prize. If you're planning to marry, date her, and more, you must be the prize. Be the man she truly admires. It might seem difficult, thinking it's impossible to satisfy modern women. Yet if you desire this, always be the prize. She should like you much more than you like her. Bruno's channel, Social Art, offers a better perspective on this. In this respect, about the passive pole, the active pole, who hurts more, who is suffering more in the relationship, who likes it more. So his channel has more content about this. But I endorse his message: you can never be the most attached party. So this question of the consolation prize is really sad, because even in the face of Sometimes it's going to come, you're going to get that girl you've always dreamed of, only it's going to be with her at 31, 32 already. Then you stay with her and realize it's not all that, whether it's between homosexuals or a companion who's already destroyed. It's like that Manuel Bandera poem. She'll think more than you, but you can think too. Manuel Bandera has a phrase, a whole life that could have been and wasn't. And it wasn't precisely because she chose too much. And before I finish the video, I'd like to talk about the text I saw on Instagram by a guy, a relationship coach of theirs, who keeps deluding single moms, single women who dream of a rich husband, perfect love, the ideal connection, and I don't know what, God's gift. The guy there wrote a text saying that there are two types of love in life. That's the love of life, the one that will never truly happen, the one that generally brings women overwhelming emotions. In other words, it's the wealthy hustler who consumes her. That's the love of life. Then there's the love for life, which adds that other preposition, for instead of of. It's the love that is gentle, tranquil. In other words, it's the simpleton, the fool, the provider who must embrace the woman's emotional baggage. This text got almost 100,000 likes, right? You only see friends tagging friends in the comments, right? All stranded, sitting on profiles, mom to Haiter, mom to Enzo, right? Just passionate about life, traveling, all those crappy biographies that only stuck up Instagram women know how to do, right? So it's like this text is an aberration, because she tells the woman, oh, the rich hustler over there, enjoy yourself with him, okay? Couple sex, even this guy won't actually take you up on it, really. And then when you get tired of these emotions, you come back from these crazy nights out and you find a love for life, the quiet, light one who takes care of you, right? Or in other words, the city provider. The guy in the text forgot to mention one thing to women. The betas are waking up, especially the betas who have some value, who have a nice income, who have a nice body, who are developing. And there won't be decent beta providers available for all. This chap neglected to mention that men are becoming aware and the inevitable holocaust of the stranded is approaching, sending a big hug.